While it sucks, there's a reason that this is a trial that you've been called to bear. And it's in your life so that you can be the person that Christ needs to be a savior on Mount Zion to the people that he has specifically prepared for you.
Hello, and welcome to Returning Stronger Stories. I'm Brooklyn Larsen, and today I'm joined by Andrew. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. All right, so to start off, we'd just like you to tell us a little bit about your story, where you served, and what constituted you coming home early.
Yeah, so I actually started out in the Cincinnati, Ohio mission, and so I spent about 6 months there, fully out of training and all of that, so I got a good taste of the mission life. I loved it, every second of it, but somewhere around the 6-month mark, I started having some issues with, actually there was a mission nurse who, I have a lot of allergies, and she was a little bit worried about some of them, and because of that, they wanted to make sure that I wasn't somewhere where the allergies would be a problem. Thankfully, nothing bad for me. They're just kind of the uncomfortable variety of allergies. But it was enough to make sure that I was going to be coming home just so that people could be safe and just that they could make sure that they were doing what they needed to. So that's kind of the main reason I got sent home. I was really enjoying it. I mean, it was hard that last, I don't know, month before coming home because I kind of knew what was happening a little bit. And when you're loving something, you don't really want to leave, but
Right.
turns
Yeah,
out
and
that
it could
that's what God needed.
be really difficult when, like you said, you're loving that experience, and then something like a health issue gets you sent
Mm-hmm.
home, and it's not really your choice either. You kind of
Yeah.
had to go home, and you're just like,
Mm-hmm.
well, what now kind of type thing. Thank
So
you for sharing.
the funny thing about it is I got to the night before coming home that this whole thing was just kind of weighing on me. And I was just like, okay, do I keep going? Like, what's the signal? And that was kind of the cool thing. I worry that I'm getting a little bit ahead here.
No worries.
But yeah, so I had talked with my mission president a couple of times, and we were trying to figure out if a service mission and like continued missionary service is what was kind of the plan for me. And it was really hard because I had the idea in my head that like I didn't really know what service missions were, and I just kind of loved proselyting, and I didn't think service missionaries were less, which is something that I was very grateful to have that conviction before becoming one. It made the transition a little easier. But one of the things that was a little hard is I just didn't know about it. And having loved proselyting so much, it was going to be this big change and it wasn't the plan. So it took until the night before coming home before I made the decision to keep serving.
That's amazing. And service missions are so rewarding. And that's something we will jump back into here in a moment. But first, we've often found that missions, no matter how long the length of time they served, missionaries often have very spiritual, meaningful experiences. Could you tell us about one particular experience, whether in the field or coming home early or even in the service mission, that really stood out to you?
Yeah, so actually, this ties really, like, kind of the reason I was talking about it getting to the night before is a preface for actually a very powerful spiritual experience. And it's the reason that I chose to continue serving. Because I was like asking for the answer, trying to figure out, is this what the plan is for me? And I went to a lesson with 2 other elders, the 2 I was with in the office right before coming home. And something that my mission president had taught us about is that called and set apart missionaries can offer certain kinds of prayers. It's kind of like invoking a blessing on a home. Not quite the same as a priesthood blessing, but something similar. And my mission president had taught me about these at one point, and I hadn't really used them that much. It was just like this thing of like, oh look, there's this cool thing that we get to do as missionaries. But as we were preparing to leave and finishing up the lesson, I got a very clear prompting that I needed to offer the family that we were teaching that we leave their home with one of these type of missionary blessings, which is just missionary prayer, but using kind of more the language of blessing. So rather than asking, we are speaking on behalf of the Lord as his servants and pronouncing blessings upon the home as the Spirit directs. And it was just the most powerful spiritual experience, like probably the second most powerful experience of my entire life. And we're just sitting there in the truck afterwards, and these two other elders had come in a little bit after I had, so they hadn't been there for that training. And they were just like, whoa, that was so powerful. Like, what is this? And I'm like, well, this is something we get to do as missionaries. And it's really, really cool to get to basically ask for blessings in the Lord's name as someone who is given the responsibility to ask for and extend those blessings to people. And right as I told them that, it was a very clear impression that while I likely wouldn't need to do that again and have the opportunity to do that again during my missionary service, I needed to be ready just in case. And that experience was the thing that kind of got me to realize, hey, there's more mission. I'm not done with this work yet. Time to see where it goes. So I told my mission president, and that kind of just became my anchor for switching into the service mission.
Wow, that was so amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. It really is so cool to see how God kind of takes these little moments that are made to bless others, obviously, but he kind of uses them to bless our own lives too and teach us a lesson about where he wants us now and where he's taking us in the future. So that's really cool that you were able to use that blessing as an anchor for what's coming next for you in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for sharing. Was there anything that was particularly challenging about coming home early, and what helped you get through it?
So, in my case, it was kind of like one of those double-edged sword blessings where it's both a blessing and a curse at the same time. I went through most of my personal struggle with coming home kind of while I was still in the field, just worrying about the big one was worrying if I had served the people that I had been called to serve, and that I'd been a part of their lives in the way that God needed me to. And so that was a big part of the thing that was, honestly, that was probably the most difficult thing for me. It was just that fear that there were people that I was prepared to bless that I, because of whatever it was, in my case it was health, wasn't able to serve. And so one of the things that helped me a lot with that and with the transition home was during the flight home, actually, because I'd already determined I was going to continue serving a service mission at this point, even though I had no clue what I was getting myself into. But I determined that, and so I was praying about it and kind of about this concern of me missing people that I needed to serve. And one of the things that I remember distinctly saying as I was kind of praying and pondering about this was just, I'm so sorry I missed people. I hope that I can make up for some of it. And I said that the thing the night before had been the second most powerful spiritual experience in my life. Well, here comes the most powerful one.
Yay.
Yeah. And so I was just sitting there on the plane, just kind of, I mean, I'm not ashamed to admit I was crying and missing Ohio already, and it was still underneath me. But the Spirit, almost audibly, it was so strong it was almost audible. It told me that there were people in Ohio that I'd been called to serve, and I had served them, all of them. And there were still people that I specifically was called to serve, but they weren't in Ohio. They were in southern Utah, which is where I got to serve as a service missionary. And that was just the most powerful thing because it reframed every struggle that happened with coming home. And that was kind of like between the anchor of I'm going to be ready to provide those blessings if God needs me to, and looking for the people that I was called to serve here completely changed the way I thought of the whole experience of coming home. It was so hard. Don't get me wrong, it was like the worst thing. But it became this thing of, well, if I was called to serve people in Ohio and I was called to serve people in Cedar City, and I was loving being in Ohio so much, there's no way I'm going to go to Cedar City willingly. So God provided a way that my mission could be the mission He called me to. And that was kind of the theme for the rest of my mission was, hey, this is in God's hands and He's going to put me where He needs me. So let's do this right. Let's have fun with this and find those people.
I love that. The theme's kind of like God's going to push you out of your comfort zone. That's the only way you're going to learn
Mm,
and grow. And your plan wasn't his plan, obviously, but we know
no.
that we know that his plan is always so much better, but we can't predict it most of the time. It's never straight,
Hmm.
easy path. So that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Was there anything that didn't help coming home, or vice versa, anything that did help?
So one of the things that I didn't think would help that did was I actually like the only time in my life that I've ever gone to counseling of any kind was I did some LDS family services upon coming home. It's something that I know that they offer for all missionaries who go home. They offer at least a few times to go in. And of course, by that point, I'd kind of mostly come out of the, oh no, I'm not feeling great about this, and gone more into the like, hey, I'm here, let's do this. But there were a lot of really, really important and useful like skills that the counselor and I worked on that became ways of being able to deal with the stress that I wasn't really dealing with at that point in time, but I did end up dealing with later on in my service at different assignments where I was pushed out of my comfort zone and hit with things that were more unexpected than others.
I love that.
As for things that really like made it harder coming home, the single biggest one is missing a companion. That is the one thing that is hard because you kind of get used to living with someone and having the protections and benefits of having a companion. Like even if they suck and you don't get along, there's a lot of safety and strength that comes from having someone there all the time. And so probably of all the things I like missed and that made it hard, it would be not having a companion with me all the time.
Right. The whole thing with a service mission is you're kind of on your own. I mean, your family's your
Mm-hmm.
companion, but you don't have that 24-hour a day person who's like holding you
Yep.
accountable and stuff. So that can be very difficult. And as far as things you said that did help, I really loved that you mentioned counseling because a lot of missionaries who come home early don't know how to deal with their emotions. And it's so important that we can focus on, okay, it's okay to come home, to heal, to take care of yourself. You can still be set apart as a missionary and still take the time to grow for yourself, learn things for yourself, because it will just help you serve other people better.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. So going back to the service mission now, the cool thing was, Andrew, is that me and you actually served in the same service mission. So
Yep.
I already know quite a lot about the things you did, but what do you want to tell us about some of the things you loved or some of the things you did in the service mission?
So probably my favorite thing that I got to do in my mission was working in the temple. Okay, it kind of is a tie. There's two things that I love. Working in the temple is one. That's the one that started first. The second one was just getting to work with the missionaries. I had some really interesting experiences pretty early on in my service mission that caused me to get to be very close and work very closely with several of the young leaders. And by getting to work with them, I really just learned to love all of the service missionaries with me in a way that I hadn't ever expected to be able to love any group of people. And that made probably one of the biggest privileges of my mission is I actually got to lead in a district and in a zone at one point and just get to have these daily experiences of the Spirit kind of witnessing to me as I served the other missionaries I was with, that those missionaries were some of those people I was called back here to serve. And so that was getting to serve and like lead is very satisfying. But back to the temple, I got to have 3 temple shifts. I got to
Wow.
be in every position in the temple when my service mission started. And I got to know, like, the ordinances in a way I never would have otherwise, and just develop this love for the temple that has carried me through so much. Like, the temple is, like, people say Christ is everywhere in the temple, and you don't always see it. Like, he's definitely there, but you don't always see all the ways, but he is everywhere in the temple. Everything talks about him, and it's just, like, kind of hard to see sometimes, and it's very healing. That's the best part about it is it's like you're in there serving people and getting to know the Savior more and getting to see him more. And then you also get the like I think that there was a conference talk where they talked about having the pain of days numb. And that's just kind of the thing. It's just like the pain of the world of, coming home even just is a little bit easier to bear.
Yeah, I love that. Every sincere seeker of Jesus Christ will find him in the temple, right? I can't remember the
Mhm.
exact or who said that, but I do remember that
I think it was President Nelson.
I think you might be right. But being able to spend time in the temple is really a place where you can just heal and grow so much. And like you said, you get to learn the ordinances like back to front, basically, which is
Mhm.
so amazing while simultaneously serving people. So, what a cool opportunity. Thank you. What advice would you give to any missionaries who may be watching this, who may be going through an early return themselves?
So the most important thing, and this was my testimony that I got to share a lot, was like it's simply that while it sucks, there's a reason that this is a trial that you've been called to bear. And it's in your life so that you can be the person that Christ needs to be a savior on Mount Zion to the people that he has specifically prepared for you. And when you get to serve people, when you're finding those people, if you have, like, I can promise this because I've seen it happen. I promised it to multiple people. But if you serve and do what you can and open your heart and pray for that witness, that when you find and serve one of those people that you're specifically called back for, when you come across them, the Spirit will call it out to you. It will point it out, and you'll get to know and feel that joy. And there's just nothing like it.
That's so beautiful. I love that. I love thinking of the mission as a almost a preparatory phase for being able to be prepared to serve these people, and that you're not called to a place, you're called to a people. So regardless of if you're out in the
Mhm.
field in Ohio like you were doing or in a service mission in southern Utah, it's the people you're serving that really matters, not so much the type of work you're doing
Mhm.
or how you're doing it or the place or any of that. That's
Yeah.
really cool. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for coming on tonight, Andrew. I really felt your testimony tonight, and I'm sure others will really appreciate the words you shared. It's been very inspiring.